Hello, we're back again for the third time this morning. What a busy streaming morning it's been. I did regular Animal Crossing mornings, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday. And then I jumped straight from that into Kind of Funny Games Daily with a Wednesday with the great Greg Miller. Just finished with that. And now we're straight into this next thing. We're going to see if this works. Going to try a little experiment here. Let's see if it works. I wanted to do a little chitty chat with my good friend, author Chuck Wendig, who I'm sure many of you have heard from. He's a terrific writer, and you're going to hear from him in just a moment. I thought it might be fun to or interesting to talk about creativity in the time of coronavirus. Creativity in the time of coronavirus. So look, without further ado, let's see if we can pull this off. Let's see if we can pull up the Chuck Wendig on a call right now. I'm gonna give this a try.
Hello. What's happening? Yeah, I'm good. How are you? I did it. Hold on one second. Hold on. I got a goofy thing going on here. Just give me 1 second. Oh, there we go. Yeah. No, it's Buck. We could do that too. Yeah. Better. How are you? That's not good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Damn it, technology. Damn it. A little pizzazz, a little jazz.
I'm going to add that now. Now people in the chat, can you hear me? Because I just added a little magic. Let's see. I'm going to hopefully get some feedback from someone here. My audio is, oh my God, you should be able to hear me right now. Okay, now they can hear me.
Oh, good. We did it.
Hold on.
Did we do it?
Hold on. Can you hear me and can you hear Chuck? Okay. All right. I knew that nothing works right out of the box anymore.
No.
You gotta mess with it. But now they can hear us both. What our lovely audience is seeing at home is your face very big and my face very small, which is, I think, probably
that's unfortunate.
Best for everyone. So Chuck, listen, I'm really grateful for you coming to join me here today. If only because I'm so happy to talk to another human being not in my immediate family.
Yeah, I have that exact situation. It's nice to see another human. Even though I'm just going to pet the screen here gently.
I'll give you a little
person.
I'll give you a little pet.
Like
your camera's over. I'll give you a little pet. There you go.
Yeah, it's the prison scene where you always visit at the jail and you hold up her hands to the.
So I just wanted to kind of have the kind of chat with you that I'd be having, if I were just sitting in a bar with you. But obviously we can't do that right now. So we'll do it over the magic of technology. No. And people can listen in, and I'm going to invite them to ask questions. Not right at this moment, but at the end, I'm going to ask people to kind of pepper us, stroke you with some questions. But for anyone who's not familiar with Chuck Wendig, well, first of all, shame on you. Chuck is a terrific author, New York Times bestselling author, also a member of the Star Wars family, having written the trilogy of novels, the Aftermath trilogy that immediately take place after the end of Return of the Jedi. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so very, very cool. And those novels are canon, whether you like it or not. Those
for now, until they're not,
until they're decanonized some point in the future. And more recently, watch this. This is very impressive. The author of Wanderers,
Oh yeah, big
Most
book.
recently, is this a New York Times bestseller yet? What's going on with that one?
They're calling it a national bestseller
A
because it hit all the
national
lists,
bestseller.
but New York Times, yeah, hit USA Today, hit LA Times, Vancouver,
Well, there are
did all
reasons
the
why.
indie lists, yeah, but
There are
not.
reasons why I want to talk to you about that novel beyond just being nice and wanting to give you a plug. So yeah, so I didn't want to make this sound too formal, but I decided that the topic for this was creativity in the time of coronavirus, which feels like a good thing to be talking about these days.
Yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard. Let's just say that up front.
There's an assumption, Chuck, that as writers, because we work from home, locked away from the world most of the time anyway, that
Yeah.
we're probably less affected than most. Some might even say that we're largely unaffected by what's going on out in the world.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't think that's true. Can you talk
No.
about how this has affected you so far?
Yeah, it's not true at all. We are not. This is not what working from home is like. Working from home is not entering a little submarine or spaceship, and as the world falls apart around your ears. That's stressful stuff, man. And we're plugged into friends and family who are going through hard times, and we're looking at an industry that we don't know what's going to happen, whether it's publishing or TV film or comic books. They're all having their kind of turbulence right now, and so it's hard to make stuff and be excited about making stuff and just keep your head down when you don't really know what's going to happen in 2 weeks or 2 months or a year from now. So it's not easy. No, and no one should feel like you have to be on top of your creative game just because you're at home.
Remind me where you are right now and what the situation is like in your state currently.
We are I'm in Pennsylvania, and we're doing better than most, both in terms of Tom Wolf, governor. He's a good governor. He shut stuff down pretty early, shut 8 major counties down early, and then spread it statewide. And so we're all at stay-at-home lockdown time. Our cases
So there is an official stay-at-home order in your state?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean,
And are
you can
people
do the
paying
grocery
attention?
store thing. Yeah, as far as I can tell, I go out walking and stuff, and everybody's keeping their distance or not going near each other. There's no gatherings that I can see.
Right.
It's been pretty chill. So, and a lot of the local restaurants and grocery stores have accommodated ways to get people groceries, either curbside or delivery, and it's been good. I mean, good by a factor of good. So we're doing it and hanging in there.
So tell me a little bit about how this has affected you practically as a writer. I know, again, we do live in isolation. I mean, quite literally, in your case, you built I know that's where you are right now. You built a little shed where you can go.
I'm in a bunker.
Now it's more like a doomsday bunker.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So you actually did build a specific place outside of your house for you to go to work and write in. Is that correct?
Yeah. At our last house, I had one that was kind of a little tucked in the woods, and so we moved, and I needed it again because we have an 8-year-old, and he's you can't keep a kid out of your office during the day, especially like during the summer during breaks. He's John McClane. He'll be in the vents. He's a zombie at the door, man. He'll like there's fingers under the door just trying to. So I needed a space, and so last time I had a shed built and assembled, like they just brought the two halves and smashed it together.
Right.
This time I had it built from the ground up. So yeah, I'm kind of hunkered down.
And that's like in your backyard or something?
Yeah, it's in my backyard, and it literally got done like a few days, like about a week before the order came down of stay at home. So I gave it a week to quarantine, out, and then I came in and
I can only see a small part of it there, but I know you call it a shed, but it really looks more like a charming little guest house that you've built for yourself.
It is, yeah. It's got heating, air conditioning. It's got some nice recessed lights.
What was the biggest hassle? Like you got to run Wi-Fi and power and all that kind of stuff out there. What was the biggest headache?
Power was the biggest thing. Actually, the Wi-Fi reaches from the house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm lucky there. But no, mostly getting power here is tricky. Figuring out whether you're going to run it so we actually ran it underneath. You have to do it under a driveway. You have to do it under a walkway. So that's time and money.
I think it's a smart thing that you did, and I'm quite envious of it myself. I know Simon Kinberg is a screenwriter friend of mine who does a similar thing. Built a little cottage at the bottom of his yard so he can. Yeah. There's a couple of things about that, and this is before we even talk about coronavirus. Just like living a writer's life, when you've got a family and other people running around the house, I think it's really important that you carve out a discrete space for yourself. It's like, this is where I work. I think a lot of people often think that because you work from home, you don't have a real job, but you do.
That's exactly.
And
That's exactly it. No one treats it like a real job. We're just like, hey, I'm sitting here making up my stories.
He's like, hey, since you're here, why didn't you help me out with this or that? And I always help out more. And we'll talk about a little bit because in the time of coronavirus, one of the things that's affecting my work is I need to help out more around the house.
Yeah, of course.
And of course, we're all happy to do that, but it definitely does impact your work. I don't have a guest house, but the way that my house is structured, it's basically 2 layers. All the living space is upstairs, and there's basically an in-law unit downstairs that I turned into my office. So my commute is basically down the stairs in the morning, and your commute is, I guess, across the yard.
Out the backyard, yeah. Just wander out there.
Do you have a schedule? Do you keep regular hours?
Yeah, I generally come out here. It's a little weirder now because my son is doing like distance learning, so his day is a little more in flux. But you get up, do the breakfast thing. I make breakfast. I do all the cooking and all that stuff and all the kitchen cleanup. And then when I'm done there, I brew coffee and bring it out. And I theoretically start work, but now it's mostly just like I stare into the void of the news or try to just keep upbeat or find like little projects,
And those distractions are obviously a big issue for us right now. But again, just like in the best of times when the world isn't going to shit, do you structure your writing day? Do you say like you carve out like a time I'm going to write during these hours, or do you just kind of procrastinate until the muse hits you?
No, I don't worry about the muse because it'll never hit. The muse is just a deeply fickle creature. So I aim for like a good 2,000 words a day, and I usually try to hard charge the first 1,000, and then that second 1,000 is like I just give myself a 15-minute break every 45 minutes and kind of do that.
Do you ever just blow off the day? So I'm not feeling it today. I'm going to give myself a mental health day or whatever.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and that's I always say the weird line for a writer is this: you're trying to live in that interstitial space between self-care, recognizing that writing is work, and sometimes you need a lot. And a lot of writing is iceberg stuff. It's the stuff that's underneath the water.
Right.
It's thought processes and research and all the things you can do. But then also you've got to get out of the self-care sometimes and realize when self-care becomes an excuse, a crutch, when you're just like, it's 6 months and you're like 6 months of self-care and you've accomplished nothing. At this point, the self-care has done the opposite of it's not caring for you at all. So, you're trying to find that like perfect balance between those.
Did I lose you? Did you freeze
I
up?
hear you.
Oh, there you go.
I hear you.
You stuttered for a second there.
Oh no.
Not you personally, but your connection. Do you do well in isolation again? Like before the crazy times that we're in right now, do you generally feel like after a couple of days of writing, you need to get out of the house and have some? Do you start to get cabin fever when you're working in that shed for long periods?
Not too much cabin fever, but like I do obviously like the world and going out into it. Sometimes
but many people don't. I don't.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but sometimes my going out into the world is also like I go into the woods and walk in a park or something.
Not necessarily into civilization.
Yeah, like I need to be outside doesn't necessarily mean I need other human beings. So that's what I do here is I'll go outside and I have a camera and I'll either put on the zoom lens or the macro lens and I'll go just take pictures of weird stuff in the yard for like an hour, and it totally chills me out.
But do you feel like you need sometimes, like again, just beyond your own family, human interaction? Like, is it a healthy thing for you to just go to the coffee shop and talk to a barista and order a coffee just for like just that brief moment of is that something that you crave?
It's not a big thing for me. No. Like I have friends, that are local. That it's good to see those like on a one-on-one way.
Right.
It's not really about seeing random slices of humanity.
So is it? Do you think? I do think it's a falsehood to say that we're not people that work from home and people that generally work in isolation, and again writing is often a solitary, not so much so in things like television and things like that where it's very much a collaborative effort, and it's been very, very interesting to see like the virtual writers rooms pop up as technology.
Sure, yeah, that is cool.
Technology finds a way to kind of solve these collaborative writing problems, and I've been doing a lot of Zoom conferences and things like that, but for the most of the time I'm by myself, and you are as well when we're writing. Do you has that conditioned us for this any better, do you think? Were we more prepared for this solitary lifestyle that's been forced upon us?
I don't know. It's possible. Once our groove is found, I think it's not unusual for us. This isn't like a major shift. So it's not like I'm working out here and be like, what do I do now? How do I structure my day? Like the day, if you didn't know that there was the coronavirus happening, my day would proceed kind of the same way.
Right. Until you turn on the TV.
Yeah. Until you turn on the TV or look at Twitter or literally, look at outside at a neighbor's house or something. So, yeah, we're probably a little more conditioned. But I also think, though, we're weirdly conditioned because fiction writers especially are so used to apocalyptic thinking. I think we're used to like imagining worst case scenarios. So, as this stuff was sort of hitting, like I'm an anxious person, but like as this stuff was hitting, my wife was like, "How are you so calm?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. It's like that's my secret, Cap. I'm always anxious. Like I just feel like this is how
Isn't that weird that people who are anxious, because I count myself in that group as well, is that once your anxiety is finally justified, you're strangely calmer now.
You're strangely calm. Yeah, because you've been mentally preparing for this for 20, 30 years. Like, I'm ready.
And certainly with the isolation aspect, I made the joke the other day, but it's true that I never realized until now that it's always been my fantasy to be asked to save the world by staying home and playing video games.
Precisely.
And some of us are so ready for this. And here we're fortunate to be set up better than most. We have money. We don't have to worry about paying rent next week as so many others are struggling right now. And I try to think about that every day, how much better off we are than many other people.
I have a lot of friends who have already lost jobs.
Oh my God, yeah, it's crazy.
And sometimes it's furloughed, but sometimes the future is just a question mark.
But there's been a lot of upheaval as well. So I've got a 7-year-old, you've got an 8-year-old, and our houses have basically become schoolhouses overnight. And my wife's had to become a school teacher almost overnight, and she's done a brilliant job. She's been an absolute superstar, but it's a lot of stress.
Yeah, because it makes you respect teachers because they do a job that they're trained for, and suddenly we're not trained for. We're trying.
The other tweet I saw the other day that really rang true, and I think there were different versions of this. Is like on the first day, it was like, I've been teaching my kid from home for like 30 minutes, and I already think school teachers should make $1 million a year.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. And that's it's a weird thing, but I do hope that we come out of this having a different appreciation for people who maybe we haven't appreciated, about teachers and delivery folks and restaurants.
And we live in a world now where grocery workers are considered, first response, frontline essential workers. It's crazy. I think I think the biggest challenge for us, again, given that we're somewhat insulated by it from the fact that we both work from home and we're fortunate to have a financial buffer, the biggest challenge is not just this apartment, this house turning into the Overlook Hotel in a couple of weeks, where because not as much as you might love the people in your family, when you're on top of each other 24/7. You got to make sure that you don't start getting snippy with each other or whatever. Is that something you feel like you're conscious of?
I'm conscious of it. Like, we try to treat it almost like it's summer vacation with learning. Because because I do work from home, we're semi on top of each other already, and having this shed is going to help accommodate that.
Right.
So we're prepared, and we at the very least we've been through it enough to know when we're starting to hit those margins. We're testing the T-Rex paddock. We know we're hitting the fence.
Testing the fence. Yeah,
testing the fences. So it's time to back off when we get that.
The biggest challenge, and again, you've got an 8-year-old, I've got a 7-year-old. The biggest challenge for us is outside of school, just keeping my kid interested and active and engaged when she can't go out and see her friends, and she misses her friends, and she FaceTimes, and we
FaceTime's been a gift. Yeah,
she played Battleship with a friend of hers over FaceTime the other day, and again, the technology has been completely amazing. I do think that if the internet infrastructure went down, then we could be looking at a Last of Us kind of scenario very, very quickly, as we would just all go completely crazy. How's your kid holding up?
Fires. He's good. He's been we just got the order that we're officially shut again for the full month of April.
Right. Yeah. And school. We're pretty resigned to the fact now that school in California will not be back.
It's done.
Yeah, second grade is done.
Done. Yeah. So that's where he gets the sadness, when he realizes but day to day, he's pretty good as long as we can kind of keep him with the FaceTimes and giving him some things to do and engaged, and he does a lot of art, and so he can do a head down and disappear into that for an hour and come up for air, and so it helps to just sort of keep him. But it's a constant thing,
right?
It's like we have this perpetual motion machine trying to engage, just keeping everybody hey, don't murder each other. It's going to be fine.
One thing that we found is if we can get our kid getting active in the morning, doing a bit of we put her in front of Ring Fit or Just Dance or something and get her moving around for half an hour in the morning. It kind of helps get her wiggles out, and she's not. Yeah,
we take a soccer ball and go out of the yard and kicking it. And I've played soccer since I was 5 years old, so it's been all right. So I'm doing it too.
So again, given that we've got kids of similar ages, how well do you think kids at this age can process what's going on right now?
Not well. I don't think they're. I think they're on the edge of it. Like he's almost to the point where his brain kind of is catching up to the enormity of the challenge. But
Right.
and I'm not trying to make him face it. I want this to be like a thing when he's like 13 to be like, oh yeah, I remember that. That was a weird time. You're like, yes, it was. I want him to remember the difficulty of it, but not be impacted in a traumatic way.
Are you conscious of like, not having the cable news on when the kids are around and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, we cut the cord. We didn't have news ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man, you're so much smarter than I am. I need to take a leaf out of your book.
I would fall into that. Yeah.
And I tell you, the other big lifesaver, not just for my kid, but for the whole family, and you'll know this because you've been playing it as well, is Animal Crossing. Boy, did that game come out at the right time.
Yes. Perfect timing for Animal Crossing. Those people should be given awards just for their timing. Like, or maybe they caused this. Maybe this is a secret Animal Crossing sinister.
Honestly, that game should be covered by health insurance because it's so
perfect.
When we were starting to climb the walls a little bit even after a week, and then the game came out, and when the game came in, we ordered 3 copies of it because we all have our own Switches here, and everyone booted it up, and the mood in the house, I'm not exaggerating, the mood in the house lifted instantly. Not even overnight, instantly.
Not even overnight.
Instantly. Just happy faces popped up, and I took a picture of my wife and my kid propped up on the couch 5 minutes after they put the game in with their faces lit up in the happy little glowing screens, and it just brought me so much joy. And I think that, we talk a lot about, our games are, and I think for me personally at least, that's the argument's an open and shut case. But I think something like Animal Crossing coming out at a time like this really does, I think, demonstrate the healing power of video games, the power that they have to kind of lift us up when we're down.
Yeah, we have Animal Crossing. Not that I ever want to give money to Facebook, but the VR thing has been really helpful to just it feels for sure.
Hey, Chuck, you're breaking up a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hang up and reinitiate the call. So I hope we get a better connection. I'm gonna call him right back. Hey.
Hey.
There you are again. Let's see if we can get your video.
Still a little. Yeah.
Hold on. There you go. You're back.
I'm back.
All right. So I want to talk to you about how this has all affected your writing. Has it affected your writing?
Has it affected the writing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not writing really anything.
Are you? I know that you're usually a very. I know that you're usually a very productive writer. Has your productivity taken a hit?
Yes.
Oh man, I wish we had a better connection right now. Okay. Sorry.
Are we off again?
Well, you're just a little bit stuttery on my end.
Yeah.
So you're less productive. I think we all are. I'm trying not to use that as a crutch. I'm trying not to use that as an excuse.
I don't. You're breaking up on me.
You know what I'm going to do? You know what I'm going to do, Chuck? I am going to switch the rest of this to an audio call, so we don't have to worry about video bandwidth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump you again, and I'm gonna call you back. I apologize to people in the chat for the technical issue. I'm gonna call back. You're gonna have to look at my face now, and I am going to call you back as an audio call. Let's do this as voice only. There we go. Mm-hmm. Hey, are you there?
Hello.
Do I see? Do I hear you?
I don't know. Do you hear me?
I do hear you. I do hear you. I'm gonna go so people can see my face. And we're just gonna do this like an audio call.
Good. All right.
All right. And I think this is much better. So it's affected. So you're less productive. I think we all are right now.
Totally less productive.
I guess my other question is, has it affected how you approach your writing? Do you feel like even in the moment, this is affecting what you want to write about, how you want to write about the things you're writing about? Like, are you seeing kind of a change in your own attitude towards things, even as you're writing, like in the moment?
Is it a strange answer that I don't know? Like, I feel like I don't even know what I want to write. I don't know, given that I don't know what the industry is going to look like. I don't know what people are going to want to read. I don't know, do people want to read fluffy stuff? Like, I wrote a book that's right down the barrel of this experience.
Right.
A pandemic novel that in an election year with a Trump-like figure. So, I mean, I feel like I unfortunately predicted way too much stuff. And the sales are up, not down on that book. And so I don't know what that means or what that says about anything. So I don't know. I can't even figure out what I want to write. That's the sort of the bite of it.
So I'm going to, since you brought it, I'm going to use this opportunity to plug your book again, Wanderers. You can go get it right now. Look at the size of this thing, by the way. I'm just curious. When you were writing this, did you know that it was going to be such a doorstop? And this thing's
Not
huge.
that big. No, not that big. Yeah, I knew it was quote unquote more epic than some of my other books, but I hit I was like a week before my deadline, and I was I think 180,000 words into it, and I was nowhere near done. And I had to tell the editor like I'm not gonna, I can't finish this. But like I told her, I'm like what I'll do is I'll fast forward to the end. I'll do one of those cool writer tricks, and I'll make it work. And she's like, do not do any of that. That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. And she told me, no, just keep writing until it's done, until it's right. And as it turns out, that was a good instinct. And I ended up adding another 100,000 words to it. It's a 280,000 word book.
Holy shit.
So yeah, holy shit. Whoops.
How long did it take you to write?
Like first draft, probably 6-7 months.
And then how much do you do in terms of revisions and rewriting and things like that?
I think we had about a 6-month period of edits, but the edits were, all things considered, fairly light. Like there was not a lot of deep developmental editing. The only thing that I really changed was some of there's a character Benji Ray, who's a CDC guy or an ex-CDC guy, and I changed some of his character arc from the beginning, and that had to cascade through the book. But otherwise, it was a mostly just copy edits. And,
so I got to ask you. So you wrote a book, as you mentioned, about a pandemic of sorts, a very strange pandemic, but a pandemic nonetheless. Came out earlier this year. And of course, the book talks not just about the pandemic itself, but about how the public and the media and politicians, social media, how they all respond. Looking back at it now, I mean, do you feel like some kind of Nostradamus? I mean, are you looking at going, oh my God, like, are you kind of impressed or surprised by what you got right or what you got wrong? Like, how do you look back at it now in the light of everything that's happening?
It's funny because a lot of the stuff that I quote unquote predicted in that book was stuff that really, if you read about pandemics and I mean, to speak about our political situation, obviously everyone was warned that this was coming. This was not a surprise. Pandemics are actually not that unique a thing. But the one thing that really freaked me out in terms of the comparison was the coronavirus was predicted before human beings got involved, but predicted by an artificial intelligence called Blue Dot. And in the book, it's the same situation, except it's an artificial intelligence called Black Swan. And I was like, man, it's like a color and a thing and a BL color. I was like, damn, that's some magic going on there. That was some bad magic. I am so sorry for what I unleashed on the world.
Was there anything in terms of the, one of the things that I thought was really interesting about the movie Contagion, which is, kind of having an uptick in popularity right now,
right.
is that they seem to predict very well, not just the kind of the epidemiology of it, but the Jude Law character spreading the fake news and all that kind of stuff. That ended up being remarkably prescient. Is there anything in your book that you feel like struck a similar note in terms of how people are reacting to what's going on in the world around them?
Given that we've had, some instances in reality here where, Nazis and white supremacists have tried to seize the moment, right? Want to blow up a hospital or commit racial violence during this time. And that's a big component of the book. It's sort of the villain, the rise of the villains in the book are white supremacist militias.
Right.
And so that was a sort of a terrifying, note.
It's got to be kind of a weird kind of, I don't know if are you able to derive any satisfaction from being prescient about these kind of things? I mean, it's kind of a weird thing to be able to take a victory lap on, isn't it? If you
there's no victory lap. I'm mostly just sorry that I hope I had no magical ability. Very sorry.
It's been amazing to see how quickly attitudes have changed. I mean, Leah and I were watching our regular soap opera that we watch, Another Little Escape from the World, and it's just weird seeing people walking around in crowds and shaking hands. Like, just in 2 weeks, we've been conditioned to find that kind of behavior crazy and aberrant, don't you think?
I was watching. I was watching Ugly Delicious last night, the Dave Chang Netflix thing, and they go out to restaurants all the time, and they're talking to people at restaurants, and I was like, "You're not social distancing. That restaurant should be closed. Get out of there. It's a pandemic hive, you fools."
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we're going to see the reverse on the back end as well. I mean, my personal prediction is that once this is all over, I think we're treating it like a war now, and I don't think that's a bad analogy at all. Everyone feels like they're on a wartime footing. Everyone's
Yeah.
being asked to sacrifice in the same way that during World War II we rationed food. People had to crowd into tube stations at night to avoid Nazi bombs and things like that. And this obviously
Yep.
isn't as dreadful as that, but like people are being asked to. We live in a society where people are kind of used to getting what they want, what they want, where they want, and now
Right.
ordering groceries is like trying to get the new iPhone, hitting refresh at 5 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
so you can get those fish sticks before someone else grabs them.
Yeah.
It's insane, and I think many have made. Let me ask you this: do you think that we talked about how attitudes have changed so quickly, and I do think that after this. We're going to see scenes, given that war analogy, that I think will be unlike anything since VE Day, with people kind of
Yeah.
crowding into the streets and hugging each other and crowding into. I think restaurants and movie theaters and things like that will be more
Oh my
busy
God,
than
they're gonna
ever
be
when they
packed.
reopen because people are going to crave that.
People are going to have like orgies in the streets.
I'd be down for it. I'd be
Yeah,
down
I'd be
for
down
it
for it.
because
Yeah.
we are, a few of us accepted, we are social creatures, and this is very much counter to our programming, right? To isolate ourselves like this.
Yeah. Like I said, we're all in submarines and spaceships.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like once you come up to surface, man, it's going to be a big gulp of oxygen. At least I hope.
We're gonna see amazing scenes after this, and I think it's gonna, in the same way that it feels weird to be stuck at home now. I think that the first time that I'm walking around a crowded mall again, that's gonna feel really weird too.
Yeah, it will feel weird. Yeah,
And
you're like not going to know what to do. You're like, am I dreaming? What is this? What is this indulgence?
Going back to the creativity of it all, do you think the appetites will change after this in terms of what kind of stories we want to be told? I have a friend right now who's really struggling with a TV pilot that they're writing because they're asking them, so they're trying to anticipate a post-coronavirus world and trying to figure out a post-apocalyptic stories. That's not one really on the nose example. When things go back to something like normal, do you think the appetites and attitudes are people going to want those kind of stories more or less? Like, what it's going to be really interesting to see how authors and storytellers react to this.
Given that people are, reading more copies of Wanderers now and they're watching Contagion,
Yeah.
I feel like maybe they will want it. I have a suspicion that stories about what could come after
Right.
this kind of thing, not an apocalypse, but post-apocalyptic could be a thing. And both stuff that's grimmer than you would expect. In other words, stuff that's like, hey, this could have gone this way, so just be happy. It's almost aspirational to read something really super grim. You're like, well, at least we're not eating each other. Yay, we did it. But on the other hand, also stuff that's kind of like quote unquote hope punk. You know what I mean? That idea that Wanderers I try to have that in Wanderers, that it's not just about sort of grim reality. Like I wanted community to cinch tighter, not fall apart in every case.
Right.
I mean, obviously villains and people who are trying to undo that social fabric, but I wanted the social fabric to hold to some degree. I wanted people to be, in many cases, ultimately good in that book, because that time and time again shows that that's actually true. That certainly why you have bad actors and bad people out there doing stuff and exploiting crises like these. At the same time, as a sort of a bulk majority, people come together during these times to do what's right, as opposed to stepping on each other in the streets like they do in zombie movies.
I think that, just speaking for myself in terms of the kind of things that I like to write and the kind of things that I like to watch, I'm perfectly happy to write kind of a dystopian, grim, post-apocalyptic story,
Yeah.
but only if there is some kind of thematic uplift or a hopeful afterthought at the end. Like, Book of Eli ends on a hopeful note, and the movie, I don't think the movie works without it. Children of Men, which is one of my all-time favorite movies, I don't think that movie works without the ship coming out of the fog at the end. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
we all have to come out of the fog, and we need that moment.
And I think it's really going to be interesting to see how the creative community and how Hollywood reacts to this. I have no doubt that right now, plenty of writers and plenty of producers are trying to rush through kind of cash in bullshit pandemic type thrillers. I think the more interesting work's going to be with writers who take what lessons we learn from this and think about how we need to be social and what it's like to be in isolation and how we see the best and worst of people at times like this, and kind of imbue that into stories that aren't quite so obvious on the surface. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so hopefully it'll be we'll see a sophisticated look at that, and also the unsophisticated look. We'll see both.
We'll see.
I
Yeah,
think.
we'll see. Again,
Yeah.
just like you see the best and the worst of people in a crisis, I think you're going to see the best and the worst version of art
Yeah.
at the end as well. Many have made the argument, Chuck, that this crisis, and it's obviously it's a very obvious something. It's really shown just how much we take for granted. Again, we can't get you can't just go to the grocery stores anymore. Like it really does seem. My wife and I took a drive around town just to see kind of what the streets were like after the stay-at-home order, and the most surreal thing that I saw was not the empty streets, but people standing in line outside of a Safeway with chalk
6
marks.
feet apart.
With chalk marks to make sure they stand 6 feet apart. Like, I mean, people have made the comment over and over, but it's because it's real. Like, it really does feel like we're in the first 2 minutes of the post-apocalyptic movie. Anytime you turn on the news, it sounds just like those fake news clips.
Yeah. It's a preamble to like the collapse of civilization. Yeah.
And so there's been and in terms of the things that we take for granted, there's also been another conversation kind of happening on the sidelines about, and I know that you've been talking about this with some people on Twitter, about how important art really is. And you know, right now everyone's stuck at home playing video games and watching TV shows, and if we're really desperate, reading books. I remember 10 years ago I was on the picket lines outside Paramount Pictures holding up a sign for the Writers Guild strike.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of people honking their horns supporting us, but a lot of people would drive by and say, "Why don't you get a real job?"
I know.
But we all know that this is a real job, and I think at times like this are demonstrating just what a real job it is, because the kind of stuff that people like us make, books and video games and TV shows and movies, we realize at times like this just how dependent on them we really are for our inner life.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we're not first responder heroes, and we're not delivering. But I do think and I certainly hope people are like looking at the media they're consuming at this time and realizing it's not just like cash grab rich people stuff. I mean, it's like there's people who are creating this stuff who, in many cases, are not as lucratively, not making as much money as you think they are. All this stuff. Companies may be. I mean, there's certainly big companies who can cash in on these types of things, but the individual artists and writers and musicians are really, man. That's like, I know I'm certainly considering it super critical right now, just to be able to listen to music and just to be able to turn on a television show and read a book and pick up a comic and whatever else, and also to see the sort of tectonic shifts in those industries already. Bookstores closing, but then trying to figure out how to ship, and you've got comic stores can't open, and the diamond distribution is collapsing on itself. But then you have a new initiative to get digital out to people that copies up with physical copies later. It's a whole thing to sort of watch it all. The trials and tribulations of industries try to shake this thing out.
I think it's been. I mean, everyone's stepping up, and it's nice to see the creative community doing that kind of altruism the same. Making certain video games free, making books free. Pornhub is free. Like all this magical stuff is happening.
So magic. Thank you, Pornhub. They're contributing. Like, what do they contribute? Like face masks. Like we have 50,000 face masks or something. Thank you, Pornhub.
I don't even want to know why they had them.
Yeah, it's like I assume.
I'm happy to take them, but don't tell me where you got them.
Don't tell me. Yeah, I hope you just sprayed them off, just hosed them down, whatever it is. It's fine.
They often say you don't know what you've got till it's gone, and people can't go to the library. The libraries are closed. Do you think that this will lead to people appreciating those things more, having been deprived of them to some extent for a while?
I hope, like hell, it does, man. And I hope. I just hope everyone gets a sense of like how important the social safety net is, right? I mean, like healthcare and just infrastructure and hospital systems and everything. Like it's all in libraries. Libraries are not just a place to get books, but community centers. And
so you kind of predicted my next one. It's gonna be my last. After this, I'm gonna invite people. Some people have already been doing this, but I'm gonna invite people in the chat right now. We've got a lot of them. To ask if you've got a question for me, or more importantly, you can ask me anytime, but we only have Chuck for a short time. If you have a question for Chuck, stick it in the chat now and I'll pass it on to him. So you kind of anticipated my last question, which was, I think we all agree that things, even when things go back to normal, they won't be the same as they were before in many ways. And
I think it's on us to make sure they're not. I mean, I know it sounds weird. It's on us to keep that and remind people. And every step, like, hey, remember how easy it was for
Yeah, absolutely, and it's crept up on us so quickly. I remember just a few weeks ago we were still arguing about whether or not E3 was going to be cancelled. I spoke to my dad, who lives out in Spain. He emigrated to Spain several years ago. He's locked in. They have a really hard time. He said my dad is he said I'm 70 years old. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime. This is it's weird to think that we're living through history right now. People will be talking about this in 100 years. And I think so. You anticipating my last question? Look, things will never go back to normal. They'll go back to normal, but it'll be a different normal.
It'll be definitely a new normal. Yeah.
What do you think personally? What are your thoughts? What are your hopes for the broader societal changes that will have to happen once this is over?
Man, well, first of all, I hope we pay people better for those jobs you assumed were menial. Garbage men and delivery people and cooks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I certainly hope that this leads to a universal health care, because the sanctity and safety of our nation. I never understood why we treat. I mean, I guess I understand why. It's about money, but we treat invaders, quote unquote, from other countries and attacks as this crucial thing to defend against. So we build up this massive military. But when it comes down to like germs, people are like, fuck it. Like, you're on your own. You're on your own, suckers. Like, I'll protect you from that guy over there with a gun. Protect you from his sneezes. Like, so have some healthcare, man. We could all really use it.
I also really hope that this, and there's so many things that we want to change, right? Again, it's like, let's not take the people that make our lives livable for granted quite so much. Again, like, you never think about the garbage guy until no one picks up your garbage for 3 weeks. And then you notice real quick, Yeah.
I think some people assume that they're just like these, anybody will pick that up. Anybody will take that job. And it's like, it's not true. They're doing stuff you don't want to do. And like, they should be paid for that commensurately with the unpleasantness of the task.
And I think the same is true of grocery workers, delivery guy, everyone that we rely on every day. I think that's one of the most, I always try to look for the positives, and obviously we're living through a terrible time right now. The next few weeks I think are going to be appalling. But so I think it behooves us all the more to try and like make this worth it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like this terrible thing has been thrust upon you, so it behooves us as human beings and as a society to extract every ounce of positive change out of this that we can.
That whole make this American exceptionalism thing. We do this like a whole American exception sort of like, you can't take away my motorcycle helmet, but like, you got to stop, man. We got to view ourselves as a country of people and communities, not our quote unquote individual rights as being paramount to literally everyone else's individual rights, because that's how you get this sort of thing. When you get this massive inequality and you get people taking it all sort of, well, this is for me and I got mine. You're still going to catch the fucking virus because the virus doesn't care that you got yours. So let's all shore up the safety net and make it work.
And I don't want to get too political. I mean, maybe we will. Who gives a fuck?
Fuck it.
It really has been shocking just to realize and be shown in stark reality what a fragile foundation capitalism is built on.
Seriously.
They tell everybody, working class and middle class people, have a few months of money saved up for a rainy day. Apparently that doesn't apply to giant corporations who can't weather 2 weeks of bad business without needing a massive bailout. What's up with that?
The companies who didn't pay taxes in the first fucking place. Like, they're like, what were you doing with that money? You didn't pay it to us, so you should be, save up. Sorry, you spent too much on iPod this week.
It's outrageous. Hold on, I got a text from my wife. I want to make sure that I'm not. Okay. All right. Good. All right. She was just watching the chat. So I think like just a general. I would say this. If I had to make a blanket statement, I would say generally a greater appreciation for all the things that we've taken for granted for so long. Does that make sense?
Yeah, even family, friends. It's like just getting together with them. I don't know. Simplicity, the loss of simplicity.
Competent leadership, like, is that too much to ask?
Well, that ship has sailed. It's like I literally have a moment daily where I'm like, Donald Trump is president. That guy, that Donald Trump.
We just got really unlucky. Like, pandemics happen. We know they happen. They come and go. Yeah. Presidents happen. They come and go. But fuck, did these two things need to happen at the same time? Like what an unfortunate accident of history. Yeah.
It's like the weasel fucked the Hadron Collider, and this is what happened. This is what happened. That goddamn weasel. I mean, seriously. Yeah. They were like, this thing's, we don't know what the Hadron Collider.
I'm at a point where I'm more depressed about the leadership and the response than I am about the epidemic itself. Because that's nobody's fault. It's a thing. Nature's going to fuck with us from time to time.
It sounds fucked up, but that's a normal thing that happens.
You can shake your fist at nature, but it's not really it's not really anything. But you can certainly shake your fist at the people who have made this much worse than it needed to be.
Yeah, it exacerbated this crisis with incompetence, and so good times.
I want to open, and again, I encourage people in the chat. Was that for me or was that for someone else? Where'd he go? Is he still there?
What?
Are you still with us?
Am I? Me?
Are you still with us? Okay. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm actually still seeing you on video.
Okay.
Let's go back. Let's see if we can get you back on video real quick for the Q&A portion of this. I'm going to try. I thought I would go back as audio only, but look, there he is. There is the man's hairy face, the hirsute one. Are you doing, by the way? So it's interesting because you and I both represent the kind of the opposite spectrums of the mid-apocalyptic fashion curve right now. Like a lot of people are shaving their heads. I shave my head. I know that this is how you look normally. But like, are you leaning into the apocalypse beard a bit any more than you might normally do?
For now, I am. Yeah, I don't know what to do with it. Like, I don't know. I haven't seen my face in 20 years. And I'm not sure I'm willing to begin now. More. Just get it more. Let's see where we go. Like an uprooted tree, man. Just let's do it.
So I'm going to ask you a question from the chat, and again, I encourage people to submit them now.
Ask questions.
So I think you touched on this earlier, and it's a very broad question, but a lot of people have been piling into the chat as we've gone on. So this is an opportunity for you to maybe speak to it for people that didn't hear the first time. And this is from Rimbley in the chat. People confuse social isolation with solitude, but many people are reaching out to old friends. You two, I guess referring to me and Chuck, are probably seeing more of your families than ever before. That's true. I used to talk to my dad every couple of weeks. Now I talk to him every day. And we are all acutely aware of how the actions of any person affect everyone else. This separate togetherness is a unique feeling. Have you found a way to use the uniqueness of the situation as inspiration for creative work? What new perspective has it offered your writing, if any?
Oh, that was a long question. It's too hard. I can't answer that question. To ask simpler questions like
what's your favorite Star Wars movie? No, let's not go down that road either.
Oh, that's a bad one too. We don't go down there. I said anything about Star Wars on Twitter, it'll be 2 days worth of nonsense.
Well, I'll give you a second bite. Do you want to take a crack at it, or do you want to try another question?
Yeah, it's like a multi-level question, right? I mean,
I guess it boils down to, again, how is it affecting your writing, like right now in this moment?
Yeah, it's just not. It's like, I don't know. That's the weird. I feel like I'm in a sensory deprivation. Creatively speaking, I don't know what to do next. And so I'm mostly just trying to not stress out about it. Right. I'll just say that. I'm just trying to be like, you know what? If I can get 100 words here, if I write anything about anything that's not even a thing I'm going to make money on, it's just a thing, a post, fine. I'll do that, and that'll be enough. And I will have to be happy with that.
It's tricky for me because I'm in the middle of deadlines, and I'm under obligation to other people, and I'm trying to hit my deadlines. At the same time, I feel like I have to tell myself what I think what it sounds like you're telling yourself, which is I'm just not going to be as productive as on a normal day, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's like, you've pulled a hamstring. The globe has pulled, so you can't run 5K right now. You just can't, and it's okay if you can't. No one should make you do that.
I have another question, also from Rimbley. To what extent do authors, this is more of a general kind of non-coronavirus question, to what extent do authors write on their own interests, and to what extent do they write with an eye to what audiences want?
Oh, that's a good question.
Do you write just to please yourself, or do you try to anticipate what your readers are going to want to read?
I write to please myself, and also like people, like that Stephen King idea of like either a constant or an ideal reader. Like I try to write toward, like my wife will read the book or my agent will read the book. I try to just write stuff that I think that they would get because I value their taste. But generally, I'm the first line of defense, first responder on the work because I don't know what the audience wants. I mean, the audience is an unpredictable. Like who even is the audience? Do I have a specific? Was it like 10 people? Is it 100 people? Are there 1 million people I'm trying to hit? And if you try to hit 1 million people, are fragmenting your options? Like, am I trying to do that. So I try not to worry about it. I just, whatever I'm digging on, I want to just do the best version of that I can. And hopefully, I always say that storytelling is like, in writing and making art and any of that stuff, is this incredible act of optimism. It's this act of reaching out into the nowhere and saying, well, I'm not alone. There are other people out there who are like me. But, if I write this thing and it's a story about I'm having this massive moment of hope that someone else out there will like the same thing that I just put down on the paper. And,
So you just summed up my attitude perfectly, which is I just write something that I think is cool and that I want to see, and hope that there are enough people out there like me to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously in our cases that's true, and that's a really nice thing. That's an hopeful thing to feel.
I got a question from Joe Dubs 35. What's the first thing you will do after this pandemic?
Oh man, the first thing I'll do in this pandemic is I feel like I should find like a buffet line, like not just a restaurant, but like a place where you're like and no sneeze guard. Fuck the sneeze guard. Like
a Golden Corral or something and just fucking go nuts with that chocolate fountain.
Like, who cares? People have been sneezed in this stew, and I'm going to eat it, and I'm going to take whatever the cold I get from it. I'm going to thank that cold for just being a cold. I'm like, cold, it's awesome. Like get some, norovirus going, be like, well, it's not COVID. I'm good.
What I mean, so it's another way to ask that question. Like, what do you miss most right now?
Oh, did I lose you? I think I lost you.
I'm still here. Do you hear me?
There you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another way to ask that same question is like, what do you miss most right now?
Yeah, like going out to just have a meal.
Yeah, going to restaurants.
Yeah, or just even over a friend's house to have a meal, or just like having that, like, because food is such a shared experience. I mean, we do well in the house to have we have dinner every night together, and we have our meals together, but. Just to be able to be with other people and have other couples or other families and eat is such a cool thing. It's wonderful.
Just basically be the social creatures that we're designed to be.
Yeah.
How
about you? What's your? What's yours?
Go to the movies.
Yeah, movies. Yeah.
Sit in a crowded movie theater. Again, just the simple things that you take for granted until they're gone. Like just walking around a crowded mall. I had big plans to take my kid to an MLS game, and they played the opening game, and then right after that they closed the season.
Yeah.
So that's gone. I'd like to. I've never taken it to a baseball game. I want to do that.
Yeah, baseball was great. We had plans for Disney too, and it was literally the day they closed was supposed to be when we were going.
Joe Dubs also asks, and here's a non-pandemic question, this is a classic. How do you overcome writer's block? Do you get stuck? What do you do when you get stuck? This is one of those questions where you have to first recognize whether or not the thing you have is actually writer's block and not anxiety and depression. Do you believe that writer's block is a real specific thing that's separate to other writing related problems?
Not separate from, and it's not really even separate from competition. Like everybody just gets stuck. I get stuck in daily life. Like, I don't know what I want for fucking dinner tonight. So how am I going to know sometimes I just don't know what to do next in a book.
Right.
And there's all kinds of tricks writing wise that are specific to that problem. You go back to the beginning and see if there's a problem, or you take the day off, or you read it out loud and try to, I don't know. There's all kinds of things to do. But to me, the biggest thing is just to ensure that you're not treating a depression or anxiety like it's writer's block, because that only deepens your anxiety and depression. If you're like, I can write my way through this sad moment, you can't. You've got to treat it like it's a real thing, not just a sort of a glib creative problem.
So what do you do? Like, so you're not the type just to sit there kind of beating your head against the screen until the machine starts working again, right? Some people say like walk away and do something else for a bit. Like, does that work for you?
It can, yeah. I mean, I'll bang my head for a little bit. Like I'll try it. I'll try to keep kind of pushing through it. And I'll go back and I'll reread stuff. But usually, yeah, take a break, take a walk, go mow the lawn, take a shower, whatever. Punch some deer. I don't know. What do you do?
Go punch a deer.
Go punch a deer. Do a training montage, frozen beef, and snow up a hill, whatever you got to do.
Joshua Levesque asks a question. Hey, Chuck, do you ever think you will write scripts for movies? I know it's sort of a different thing, but I feel like those two writing styles are similar and crossing over isn't too much of a stretch. What do you think? Are you going to be a screenwriter at some point?
Well, it's not impossible. That's actually where I had a sort of a middle journey there. I did the Sundance Screenwriters Lab.
Oh, cool. How was that?
So I had a script there. It was amazing. It's one of the most formative experiences of my life. It was Scott Frank was one of our mentors.
Oh, wow.
Amazing time. Really amazing time. So, and I had a pilot with TNT for a year with a writing partner of mine. And so, no, I mean, it's certainly something I would consider doing.
And Wanderers is in the early stages of becoming a TV series as well, isn't
Wanderers.
Right?
Yeah, and in fact, actually, I just had a really nice conversation about that yesterday that I can say no more about. But it's
well, let me ask you if you can say this. What do you know? Like, what do you want your involvement to be? Like, would you want to write on the show or be a like?
Yeah, if that was an opportunity, sure, I would totally take it to be in the writers' room. Sure.
Stephen Spawn asked the question: is it true that the only way to write a bestseller is to put bees in your pants? Asking for a friend.
Steve Spohn? I know.
It is Steve Spohn. Yes, it is.
Yeah, bees. Yeah, and of course you put bees in your pants. What do you fucking?
Is that what I've been doing wrong all this time? Not enough bees in my pants?
Yeah, bees in your pants, in your mouth, wherever you can fit the bees, you put them in there, and they sting your creativity to life. Yeah, I'm sure that's probably not the worst writing advice I've ever heard. I've probably heard stupider writing advice. So I mean, go with it.
And this is another question related to the writer's block. I think we talked about this a little bit, but how can you tell the difference between a creative block and a larger problem with depression or anxiety? And obviously, I mean, these are things that we all struggle with, and I think they are particularly felt by creative people who struggle with depression and self-doubt and imposter syndrome and anxiety and issues with their own. I went through a terrible crisis of confidence with my own writing about a year ago, and it took me a long time to get over it. How do you deal with that kind of thing?
Yeah, recognizing that is just a case of self-knowledge, which is itself already a problem. So it's hard for me to tell you how to fix that or how to identify it. Mostly for me, it's a case of trying to figure out, like, is the writer's block a thing of excited frustration, right? Like it's like playing a video game, right? Where you're like, this fucking level's hard. You want to throw the controller across the room, but you're like excited to get back and do it again.
Right.
You're excited to have another go at that.
One more try, yeah.
One more try, God damn it. But if you're just like, if you're unable to summon the interest to tackle the problem, it's possibly depression.
I think that's actually a really good way to diagnose it. That was the problem that I had last time, is that not only did I wasn't enthusiastic, I didn't feel good about anything I was writing. And I think that's a deeper problem than just writer's block, where you're enthused to do it, you want to write, but you're like that frustrated. It's actually a great quote. I'm going to steal it. Frustrated enthusiasm. Like, you're motivated to do the work, but something is stopping you from doing
something is stuck. Yeah, it's like a piece of something lodged into a pipe.
Yeah, it's a motivational issue. I'm just scrolling back to see if we have any other questions that are worthy of your sage wisdom here.
Yeah, you're too kind. Seriously.
Let me see what we've got here. I actually have a question for you about Wanderers. Like, so again, Wanderers ended up being kind of eerily prescient in some ways. What was the initial germ of that idea, and how did that develop into this is going to turn into a 1,000-page book that I'm going to devote like the next several months of my life to? Like, how does it go from like maybe this idea to something that you're all in on? Does it happen all at once, or does it creep up on you?
It was a weird thing, right? Because like 4 or 5 years ago. Well, like, here's the thing, right? Writers are always given the question, where do you get your ideas, right? That's like, where do you get your ideas? And I'm like, I always think the better question is, how do you make the ideas stop? Because like, they're constant. I have no solar shield. I'm just constantly barraged by cosmic debris of ideas, and they're useless. They're all garbage. People who treat ideas like they're fine gems. Ideas are just costume jewelry. It's all how you wear it, man.
Right.
So, I had an idea like 4 or 5 years ago, sleepwalker idea, just that there are people sleepwalking one by one. They come out of their houses and they begin sleepwalking together toward an unknown destination. You don't know if they're good. You don't know if they're bad. I didn't know if they were good. I didn't know if they were bad. So the core idea, as it turns out, is just not a story. I can't write that. I have nothing. There's no face to it. There's no characters, and characters are why we.
But again, I want to try and kind of to use a current phrase. I want to kind of contact trace even that back to its source. Like, do you remember, like, is that something that, like, because some ideas do just come to you seemingly out of nowhere?
It came to me. I was in the shower. It hit me in the and it was just, hey, sleepwalk. Like, I didn't have a thing I read. It wasn't like a piece of information that entered my head and bounced around for a while. It was just a thing that occurred to me for no good reason.
So you've got the germ, and and you think that maybe the germ can grow into something, but you don't yet know how to do it.
And so I would constantly revisit it, and I no longer write my ideas down because they're all garbage. So I don't want them cluttering up a notebook. I always assume like it's idea Thunderdome. If an idea deserves to live, it will fight to be heard inside the arena of my skull. So,
but I would say, Chuck, if you came to me with that germ of an idea, so I have an idea about a pandemic of people who's suddenly become sleepwalkers and they start walking towards a destination and no one knows why. I would say the same. I would say two things to you, which I think what you've been saying. One is, okay, you need to develop that more, but also I think that's worth developing. I think that idea is compelling in and of itself.
Right, and so I knew exactly that. I knew it was. I couldn't, and I would take it down these like sort of narrative roads as to where it could go, and they would fall apart. It would just like it's like an ant bridge. You can watch them get halfway across and then they fall. So, and then in 2015, 2016, all my anxieties about the world, global warming and antibiotic resistance and white supremacy and politics, obviously politics, formed like my anxiety Voltron. And when it did that, it coalesced the entire. I had it. I had Wanderers figured out, and I didn't really have to outline it. It was strange. It was a strange experience writing that book.
A book that dense with those different many plot threads going on, like you didn't outline that to a great degree.
No, I always outline because I have to outline, and I did not outline. I mean, I wrote a synopsis, so I had a very loose through line for the book, but mostly I wrote like 5 or 6 chapters scattered throughout the book, mostly like character focused stuff, not even big plot pieces.
Right.
And that was enough. And I just sort of moved it from there, and I would just take it step by step. And I didn't write it like I would normally write a book. Like I said, normally I do a 2,000 word day and I kind of head down and I get my work diligently done. But this was, some days I would write 5,000-6,000 words. Some days I would write 500 words. It came in these massive fits and starts. Very different book for me.
I think, and this happened to me with Eli, I think what makes an idea feel worth developing to me is when you realize that it can serve as a clearinghouse for a bunch of shit that you want to say.
Yes, yeah, exactly right. Yeah, Wanderers was tight, man.
All right, I'm going to, let me see here. Was there one other question? Oh, okay. Stephen Spone is back again. Actual real question this time. I don't know what was wrong with the bees question, but he says this is a real one. If the two of you, I guess for both of us, could work together to bring any IP to the big screen, what would the two of you want to collaborate on in an ideal world? I feel like he's put us on the spot there.
He's put us on the spot. Yeah, boy. I don't know. What do you feel are there any had a day in the sun cinematically? Or you just want to work on your own stuff?
I don't know.
That's also a fair thing to be like, fuck IPs. I just want to do my shit.
I mean, I've got my, I generally don't like playing in other people's sandboxes. I'm much more enamored of stuff that I create from whole cloth.
Agreed.
Having said that, as I'm sure you'll agree, there are exceptions. Star Wars is an exception because that's such an amazing sandbox that you don't care it's someone else's. You just feel privileged that you get to play in it. And I'm working on The Last Starfighter right now. That's a movie that was very special to me as a child, and I really want to try to kind of put my own spin on that. But for the I turn down so much of what I do in screenwriting is other people's sandboxes. Like 90% of the emails that I would get from my agent are like, "Do you want to do fucking Hot Wheels the movie?" And I'm like, "Not really, not really."
Exactly. No. Yeah. How much money is in this?
But sometimes there's a way in, and we've learned. You look at something like the Lego Movie. You can spin gold out of anything if you've got a great take and the talent to execute it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I never really saw myself as like a servicer of other people's stories. And much rather.
What's great is after this, we're gonna see like a Screen Rant article about how Gary Whitta and Chuck.
We're gonna do Hot Wheels, Gary and Chuck.
We're gonna do that. Yeah, it's gonna be all over the news. Someone's going to be hearing this, and they're going to instantly take it to the media. Right? So
it's I'm sure they had the same conversation with you, but when I started on Star Wars, they gave me a whole speech like, just be aware that once you're associated with Star Wars, anything you say is like the president said it, and it's going to make news. And
they didn't tell me that. I got nothing going into the Star Wars.
Oh, really?
They were behind the 8 ball, I think. content before the movie came out. I mean, I had literally a month to write the first Aftermath book.
Right.
So it was like it was rubber meets road, man. There was no like, hey, listen, and there was like no, I didn't get like a sheaf of information. I didn't receive like encyclopedic data. It was just like, go do it. It was like, go do what? Like a Star Wars book. Write it now. All right. Shit. So yeah, it was definitely like falling out of a plane.
It's just been crazy for me, and I imagine you've had similar experiences. Like someone asked me on Twitter, hey, would you ever do Hot Wheels the movie? And I say, hey, maybe. And next day, there's an article on some clickbait website. Gary Whitta announces Hot Wheels the movie. Rogue One writer is going to be.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why I'm hoping the news seizes on this critical moment. That
so just for the sake of just for the sake of clickbait, Chuck, let's agree that let's announce it here on the channel that you and I are going to write Hot Wheels the movie.
We're going to write a Hot Wheels movie that it'll never get made. Hot Wheels hasn't asked us to do it. We're going to do it.
Let's do Hot Wheels with a Z, and then they can't get us.
Yep, exactly. Hot Wheels. Suck it, brands.
Chuck, I'm going to wrap it up because I got to go have some lunch, and you've already been more than generous with your time. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed talking
thank you. It's nice to have a human being.
Absolutely. Even just a face on a screen is a treat.
Talking to each other through our little submarine.
Yeah, it's been great. This has been really, really good. I'm going to put this up on YouTube once it's done. There's like a 24-hour window for Twitch, and then after that, I'll put it up on YouTube, and anyone can watch it on their own time. But I've really enjoyed talking with you, Chuck. You made me feel you've given me my daily dose of human interaction for the day, and I'm very grateful to you. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me. I'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, bye. Hey, that was cool. Thank you, everyone, for coming and joining us for that little conversation. That was really fun. I'll put that up. I'll put that up on YouTube in about 24 hours for anyone who missed it. And I'll take this. I'll just drop this down because we're no longer live with author Chuck Wendig. I'll be back tonight at 7 p.m. Probably playing Animal Crossing, but maybe something else. You never know. You just never know. And of course, I'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Pacific for Animal Crossing mornings. Now, let's forget before you all disappear. We always raid at the end of a stream, and today is no different. Why should it be any different? Let's find, as I like to do, a little Animal Crossing streamer. Let's find someone who is playing Animal Crossing. For very few. I know Miss Envy's great, and I love her, and everyone knows who she is, and anyone can go watch her channel at any time, and I think she's doing great stuff with her Animal Crossing streams. But what I like to do is hit up complete randos and surprise people who are not expecting it. So what I want to do here is come all the way down to the bottom. It takes a long time to get all the way down to the bottom. Get all the way down here, down to someone who is streaming in single digits, and raid the hell out of them. We've got 157 people in the chat right now. I would love it if at least 100 of you would join us for the raid, even just to kind of get things started here. My goodness, it takes a long time to get to the bottom of the Animal Crossing channel because so many people are playing it right now. It's just so popular. Let's see, we're down to 36 viewers. Let's get all the way down to single digits here and give someone a nice surprise. Let me see. Down to 20. I wish you could just like jump to the bottom or like sort from like fewest viewers. You know, would that be so difficult to do? Let's see. Let's get down into single digits. Gary, I have a question. Whenever we raid, someone always asks the person if they know who you are or whatever. Does that make you uncomfortable? It doesn't make me uncomfortable, but nor do you need to do it. Like, no, it's not about me. No one needs to know who I am. It doesn't matter. If they ask, oh, where did this raid come from, whatever, by all means you can tell them. But like, you don't need to brag about like where you came from or anything on my behalf. That's not something I need. So let's get down to. There is a sort by fewest up at the top right. There is? Oh, shit. I'm going to do that next time. But for right now, we're already at the bottom. Let's go all the way at the bottom. Let's find someone with like almost no viewers. We're down to like single digits now. Or sort by fewest. I'm going to use that next time. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. down to 8 viewers. Anything under single digits is cool. Let me see. Who do we like? Let's go all the way down. Let's see how low we can go. 7 viewers. It's got to be someone that I think it seems like a nice person and is playing for very few people. Oh my God, so many streams. So many streams. Down to 6. Yeah, I got to use that sort by fewest next now that I know that's actually a thing. Thanks for that tip, by the way. Very impressive. If we can get under 5. Anyone under 5 would be good. Let me see. Okay, here's someone who's playing Bunny Day for 5 people, and she looks like she's put some effort into her stream. Let's see. What?
You have to be an egg.
Hopeless Chase. We're gonna raid Hopeless Chase. Let's raid her. We're gonna do it right now. Stand by. We're gonna do this right now. We're gonna go to my channel, so I can do the raid command. Go to Stream Manager. Create a dashboard. This will be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, raid channel. Hopeless Chase. All right, here we go. She's playing for 7 people. She's about to be playing for a lot more. Let's get a hype train going. I like it. I will see you in the chat on the other side. 10 seconds.